From the Kentucky coal mine to the California sun, hey, Bobby shared the secrets of my soul.
In the day we sweat out on the streets of a runaway American dream. At night we racked the mansions of glory and suicide machines.
We all have dreams we need to dream, but sweeter than any star you can reach.
From Janis Joplin to Bruce Springsteen to Whitney Houston, I would say that there's probably no living person in American music who has launched more talent, signed more talent, and had a bigger impact on the music scene than Clive Davis. Clive Davis is the chief officer over at Sony Music Entertainment Worldwide. He's a legend in the business, and he's worked with classic rockers, he's worked with pop artists, he's worked now with hip-hop and rap artists. And I decided when I started to go down this road of examining what's happening now in the American music scene, particularly with some of the what I call pornified or more depraved lyrics that kind of play into some of the more debased sentiments out there in the scene today, I decided, look, who knows? My friend Quincy Jones knows a lot about this. We've interviewed Quincy before. And Clive Davis is the other person. If I could sit in a room with him, he would be the person I'd want to talk to about this. And I'm delighted that he joins us now. Mr. Davis, great to have you on.
Well, thanks. It's nice to join you.
You have really, you've signed everyone from Joplin to Springsteen, you work with Santana, Whitney Houston, Jennifer Hudson, Alicia Keys. Regardless of what genre of music that people out there listening to this broadcast now across this country like, you've in some way had a hand in it over the past 40, 50 years in American music. And my first question to you is, what do you look for when you sign a talent?
Well, first you got to separate whether you're looking at a vocalist, whether you're looking at someone coming from the vaudevillian entertainment part of it, like a Whitney or an entertainer, and then you've got to have a separate criteria if you're really dealing with a rock artist or with a singer-songwriter or someone who writes his or her own music. So obviously, if you're first seeing, as I saw, a Bruce Springsteen, or if I'm appraising an Alicia Keys, they're singer-songwriters, and you're listening not only to them as possible performers, but you're really appraising the material, and you're seeing, is it unique, is it special, is it capable of being on the radio? Because without radio, to this day, it would be almost impossible to break an artist through. If it's someone in the tradition of an Aretha Franklin, if it's someone like when I auditioned Whitney Houston, you're really looking for someone who can dig deep down. You're looking for someone who could headline, if they do have hits, a Radio City Music Hall or a Madison Square Garden.
Right, and I think that's the right way to look at it, no doubt. And no one's had more success in picking talent and spotting it than you have. And moving on from all of those classic performers and classic talents, I want to ask you, do you think there's any connection between music, the music made, written, performed, and the artists and their social behavior, how they conduct themselves in public? And did that ever inform your decision to bring an act to the public?
No, there's no time. When an artist auditions for you, usually at a relatively young age, I mean, this is the big moment of their life, so that they certainly have it together for that audition. They certainly are giving it their all and yearning and just hoping for a career. Usually music, for the real deal, they're so much of a part of their life. So, I've not been to sloppy auditions. I've not been to auditions where I felt there was any influence on an artist's behavior at all. I mean, you just don't see that.
Well, what about the lyrics in music? And obviously you were pivotal and helped found Bad Boy Records with Sean Combs, and you launched the career of the notorious B.I.G., others. When you look at performances, music, sheer musical talent of someone like a Springsteen or a Joplin, Jennifer Hudson, and so forth, then you go on to look at the lyrics and the expressions in some of this music. To me, it doesn't seem to measure up. I mean, when you are looking at somebody and hearing somebody say a chubby N-word on the scene, using the most profane references to women, whether it's falling on my D word or Lil N-word bigger than gorilla in Chris Brown's lyrics, how do you, Clive Davis, not say that has a negative impact on the culture at large?
Well, first of all, when you were praising Biggie, when Puffy brought me Biggie or Mace or what he was doing himself, you were not appraising that. I mean, when you're dealing in the hip-hop revolution, you know you're dealing with artists that are more to the cutting edge. So in this type of conversation, one is not going to whitewash any extreme kind of communication. You're really dealing with the essence. Do you have somebody fresh? If you're coming into an Eminem and you're seeing somebody, a white rapper, who can rap with the best of any black rapper in history, when you're knowing that part of what he's doing is both poetry and speaking to the people and registering and doing it in a manner that's so totally unique and charismatic, if they use the F word, it's like doing a motion picture. I mean, if you're dealing with a great film, if you're the head of a studio and you see a script that's biting and probing, you're not going to say, I won't take this film because there's language in it. You obviously notify the language. You certainly, in our case, you put a sticker on any album. You know it's not going to get airplay. You know that if there's any inappropriate word, you're not communicating it on the radio.
Do you think about Clive? Do you think it has an effect on the culture at large? Because to me, you could track the continued envelope pushing in your industry, where every year it has to be more edgy, every year it has to be more profane, every year it has to be more explicit. So now we have top recording artists. I mean, at some point, I mean, is there an objective standard that comes into play? Because when I'm looking at the lyrics, just from things recorded under your label, 3-6 Mafia, obviously Naughty Girl, Beyonce, huge star. Do you think anyone's going to be humming this in 25 years? I mean, they're going to be humming a lot of your other artists, I can tell you that, whether it's Billy Joel or Springsteen. But do you think anyone's going to be playing this in a restaurant 25 years from now?
So, look, first, you and I have not met, so that we've not had a chance to probe this in the area of general entertainment culture. What you're talking about is a definite trend in society. This is not exclusive to either hip-hop music. Look at the Broadway theater.
I agree with you.
Theater today, the MF mother wears a hat, or whether you're talking about
agree with you.
Film, or when you're dealing, with the. Do you think that Steven Spielberg? Do you think our best directors will not get involved with the script because Tom Hanks or even Julia Roberts as the leading lady is not going to use the vernacular that's on the street? I think that you can discuss this. It certainly is a trend. More than a trend, it is that over the last few decades, there are different standards. You obviously couple it with notifications so that hopefully you don't affect minors, but you're living in a dream world if you don't know that the criteria or the impact of language itself, just the use of a particular word, is definitely more commonplace, in your schools, on the streets.
But is it good?
It's going to permeate music. It's going to permeate television. That silly change that you can say anything you want on a cable channel, but you can't on a network. I mean, that keeps narrowing down as to what language is appropriate at 11 o'clock, so that you're raising an issue that's true of a society.
I agree with you, Clive.
All the culture.
Right, I completely agree with you, and I've written about all of this. Okay, and you should know this about me. Okay. I am a consumer of music. I mean, from my dad used to have us listening to Oscar Peterson, Art Tatum, Ella Fitzgerald, Sinatra, the Rat Pack, all the way up to Miles Davis, to the greats in the 1960s, the Eric Clapton, the Beatles, the Who, Pink Floyd, all this stuff. I mean, I consume it, all of it. And I love music, and I promote artists and talent on this show. I have for 10 years. And a lot of people say, oh, Laura, why are you talking about music? Why? Because I think it's so important, and it is part of who we are. And you obviously are a trendsetter. You're somebody who has discovered the most incredible songwriters and amazing performers, I think, of the last 40 years. There's no doubt about it. And
my interest and my involvement goes the fullest spectrum. You have the white pop melodies for years of Barry Manilow. I've worked with 6-7 years with every single American Idol winner, from Clay to Kelly Clarkson to Carrie Underwood and Daughtry. And, of course, I've tried to be at the cutting edge, so that whether you're a Springsteen, whether you're a Patti Smith, whether you're dealing with a Lou Reed or a Graham Parker, it goes the spectrum from Whitney Houston to Alicia, not to brag, but to say, I want to bring the best of American music.
Right, but why would you think that lyrics and performances that include some of the most debased and violent emotions directed at women, especially women, and also just the debased language toward other minorities, why would that be something you want to put in that incredible repertoire of yours? You could do whatever you want. You've made enough money. You don't have to make another dime if you don't want to. So it can't be about the money.
I don't think this is a burning issue that affects music. I don't even run across this when you're talking about that. I mean, you're taking and you're shining a spotlight. I'm not condoning any misogynistic or anti-woman. I myself have personally, never really run across that as far as that's concerned. You're really, I think, emphasizing an issue which is not generally true of 95.8%. So no one's going to say you get into then the grounds, and we can have the typical conversation of whether a book publisher or a record company is going to censor its artist or
right. Well, you're not the government. You make decisions all the time. When we come back, Clive Davis is going to stay with us. We'll have a short segment when we come back. And my point is, the music industry or the culture censors itself all the time. You're not going to hear anti-Muslim lyrics, right? You're not going to hear put-downs of Muslims. You're not going to hear the skinheads being glorified or their sentiments being glorified. Not going to hear any of that. And so we're always self-censoring ourselves. When we come back, more with Clive Davis and the trajectory of American music. Is it going in a good direction, bad direction? Does it even matter anymore? We'll stay with it. Don't go away.
He says, son, can you play me a memory? I'm not really sure how it goes.
You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 800-876-4123. Clive Davis, who is responsible for launching some of the biggest names in music today and over the past 40 years. He's the chief officer over at Sony Music Entertainment Worldwide, and he's launched everyone from one of my favorites ever, from when I was a kid, growing up in Connecticut, Billy Joel, to, of course, today, Kesha. And Clive and I were talking during the break about, all of the culture and how the envelope is being pushed across the board. No doubt about it. Television, on stage, and billboards, and in magazine covers, and of course in music. And Clive, when you look at someone like a Kesha and her music and her song Sleazy and Get Sleazy, the message is basically the more you sex it up, the better you're going to feel, the more real you're going to feel. And as a force in music today, do you think that's a positive and a good message for women, especially young women?
I think you got to take each artist. Her big hit was TikTok. That was the big hit that Kesha had, and it really was a hit all over the world, not just here. It was, as a digital download, it probably sold maybe 7 or 8 million copies. But that was a hit. It was a hit dance record. It was a hit on radio.
Right, but when artists are singing today about their sexual organs, about slapping women around, about the N-word, the B-word, cuffing women, N-word bigger than gorilla, is that something any of us can be really proud of? That's the kind of culture we want to pass on to our kids and also have exported abroad? Is that positive?
I honestly have to tell you, I think that you're blowing up something that is not either a music issue today. That's not what regular music is about. The big breakthrough in sales has been Lady Gaga, and the second to her probably is Katy Perry. I mean, those are artists with none of these issues apply to. There is a tendency in culture so that in every medium, and you will have the CeeLo record as an example, where on one record, the F word does appear, but
and the title
issue that you're talking about, a misogyny or doing that does not apply even to the best great rappers with the material of Kanye West or Jay-Z.
I could talk to Clive Davis for an hour about this.